Good evening. Welcome to the October 5th, 2023 Smyrna Municipal Planning Commission meeting. I will call this meeting to order. And with that, if you'll stand, Mark's going to lead us in the prayer and Charles with the pledge.
Let's bow and pray. Father, we just come to you this evening, Lord, just thanking you for the fall weather, the crispness in the air, Father, and just the blessings of the season. Lord, we ask you tonight to give us guidance and discernment as we do the business of the town. We also ask that you continue to watch over those that serve the town, our employees of all kinds, our police and fire department, everybody that serves this city, Father, goes out and works hard every day. We ask that you keep them safe and continue to bless their families and our citizens as well. Continue to watch over Smyrna as a whole and give us the guidance and the blessings you always do. We ask you to continue to love us and forgive us. It's these things we pray in your name. Amen.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you, Mark and Charles. Citizens' comments.
We had one who asked after the agenda had been sent out, and so it's Mr. Miller, who spoke last month, had asked to speak again.
All right, I tell you what, we'll suspend the rules and allow Mr. Miller to speak we got 3 minutes for you. Okay, go ahead, sir.
Thank
I'm
you.
sorry, if you give us your name and address again.
My name is Robert Miller, address 1215 Ledbury Drive, Smyrna. Since the last meeting, I started a petition to oppose the rezoning of the 602, 604 Rock Springs Road rezoning. I got, there's 31 signatures on this that I would like to submit. And then I reviewed the traffic study as it affects Ledbury Drive and just wanted to highlight a few numbers from there. The development states that it is going to have enough room for 1,009 parking spots. The estimated daily traffic was 1,642 cars. That's using all the entrances, the proposed on Rock Springs Road and Ledbury Drive. The report was saying, or it estimated that 30% of that would be using Ledbury Drive, which is about 500 cars. 45% was going to be traveling east off of Rock Springs Road, 25% going west on Rock Springs Road towards Old Nashville Highway. And I was thinking that the 30% estimation using Ledbury seems like an underestimation, given that there's 3 grocery stores all on Sam Ridley within 3 miles of the location, Kroger, Publix, and Target, as well as the marketplace at Smyrna. As well, anyone wishing to go towards Nashville or I-24 would make that, would choose the entrance on Ledbury versus the Rock Springs entrance. And I also was wondering about the parking on, some people park on Ledbury, and how that would relate to, with not widening the road, or, with an extra 500 cars there. But thanks for letting me speak, and I'd like to submit the petition. Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Give that to Catherine, and she'll hold it for us.
Thank you.
Okay. We are next on to the approval of the minutes of the September 7th, 2023 meeting. Counselor, are the meeting minutes in order?
They are in order, Chairman.
Okay. Any question from the commission? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve the minutes.
I have a motion to approve the minutes from Amy. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Charles. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes are approved. Our next agenda item is a public hearing, the revised subdivision regulations. Kevin, I believe you have this.
Yes, we have put together a pretty fairly comprehensive set of revisions to the subdivision regulations. We did talk about this last month, but we do need to hold a public hearing tonight and then have a vote then. The staff's recommendation would be to adopt. We did advertise this in the newspaper, and we also, in addition to that, we did send a notification to the various engineering firms that have submitted to us over the past few years with a link to the website where those were placed. And we, in addition to that, we put them out on the website for anyone who wishes to take a look at them. We have not received any comments from anyone at this point, but we did put them out there for if anybody had any questions or comments that they wanted to ask about or make on the revisions. Again, this is the first time we've looked at this since 2009, so we would recommend these to you. Again, first you need to hold a public hearing, and then would have the vote afterwards. So.
Okay.
And again, just as we did talk about the specifics last month, nothing has changed since we talked about it last month. So they're still the same as we presented last month.
Okay. Public hearing tonight or at council?
Public hearing tonight. The subdivision regulations are entirely a planning commission adoption and a planning commission document. So you would hold a public hearing and then have the vote to adopt, and then that would be the end of the process.
Okay. So we are at a public hearing here. So is there anybody here to speak either for or against this item? Hearing no one, we'll close the public hearing and we'll move to the council for any questions first, and then we'll see if where we head as far as a vote. Any questions from council or comments?
I have a couple that
Sure.
are just because I was not in the last meeting.
Okay.
So when I read this, I just want to make sure I understood it.
Sure.
Item number 4, the final plat, that's a staff review according to this, right?
No.
No, okay,
No,
so that's why I
there
wanted to
a-
ask the question.
Yeah, there was an option within state law now to do that. We're not recommending that.
Okay. Tell me what an extruded curb is.
Extruded curb is basically, and Charles could probably explain it better than I could, but basically it's a piece of, it's concrete on top of the asphalt. It's not incorporated into the actual
Okay.
main part of the cat.
And so
Most
the
folks are not using that anymore, but there are still a couple of folks.
Okay.
so.
And so number 6, is that for fire apparatus ratios?
Yes, that's consistent with the fire code. Yes.
The last one I had a question was the state law changed to allow for subdivisions within the same parameters to be reviewed by the staff up to 5 lots. Is that the plan that we are going to look to adopt, or are we going to look at the 25 lots?
Well, actually, we're not recommending anything, either
Okay.
of those. The plan.
State law permits it.
State law does permit it. It
Okay.
was a permissive thing. Most of the laws, the laws that the state has changed have been mandatory that we have to do. That was actually a permissive one, where we can do final plats up to 5 lots that are, say there's an existing street and they're just dividing off an existing street or whatever. And then the 25 lots is even if a preliminary plat's been approved, staff could approve up to 25.
But staff doesn't want to,
We're not recommending that.
okay.
On
All right. That
either
was
of
all I
those.
wanted to know.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else? I will entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
I have a motion to approve from Mark. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of approving these revised subdivision regulations signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This is approved. Our next agenda item is subdivision regulations amendment.
That's what you just did.
Oh, I'm sorry, it looked like it, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we had the public hearing and the.
Yeah,
and the
no
vote.
wonder.
We had them on a
I was
separate
like, I was
item.
looking at that
Yeah.
thinking, wait, are we?
If you want to do it again, we'll do it again.
What was the vote? How about old business?
Under old business, the first item has been requested to be deferred for 1
Okay,
month.
and that's from Andrea Patty, 63 North Lowry Street, rezoning C2 to PCD.
Yes.
I'll entertain a motion.
Move to defer.
I have a motion to defer for 1 month.
I think that's standard.
Okay,
yes.
second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Further discussion. All those in favor of deferring this request signify by saying aye.
All right.
Opposed? This rezoning request has been deferred. Our next item, Jennifer Speech, 602 and 604 Rock Springs Road, rezoning R1 to PRD.
Yeah, this is a request that you all did review last month and was deferred at the request of the developer. It has changed a little bit, still essentially the same, but it has changed a little bit as far as the density. But so we'll go over that. It's 31.68 acres of property currently zoned R1, has been requested to be rezoned to a PRD. The surrounding zoning is a mix of R4, R6, C2, and the Harsh Branch Village PRD to the east. Land use plan would support medium-density, single-family residential development in this area. Rock Springs Road is designated as a collector on the major thoroughfare plan, and right-of-way is shown to be dedicated as a part of this development. Imperial Boulevard is a minor arterial on the major thoroughfare plan. The existing right-of-way does dead end into the northeastern corner of this tract, and they are showing a right-of-way to be extended across this tract at that very extreme northeastern corner. The proposed PRD last month we looked at was 222 townhomes, and what's in your report it's tweaked just once again just a little bit. It's 100. What the request is in front of you tonight is 192 townhomes and 21 single-family houses. The area along the western border abutting the existing single-family has been changed from townhomes to single-family homes. Would still be sold in a way as same as the townhomes through it has a horizontal property regime, but would be single-family.
Kevin, I'm sorry, how many single-family?
21.
21.
Yeah, 21 single-family and 192 townhomes it's 213 total, which is, so it has gone down slightly from last month when it was 222. There was a traffic study submitted, so the improvements that were recommended by that, which were essentially to add a shoulder along Rock Springs Road on the north side, and then to that the entrance onto Rock Springs Road within the development would have a left and a right turn coming out, so 2 lanes coming out. Number 6, the required minimum fire flow is 1,000 gallons per minute at 20 PSI. That's not currently attainable at this site. However, the town does have a water line improvement project which should be completed in approximately 1 year that would take care of that issue. Road G is what it's named at this point, but it's the road that is connecting to Imperial Boulevard. As this road is not constructed to this property, in the interim, a turnaround compliant with the fire code would be required in that area. They have shown a cul-de-sac in that area, and they have labeled that with a 48-foot radius or 96-foot diameter, so they are meeting that requirement now. Number 8, we'd ask for there's some additional information on the single-family home portion of this, similar to what they had provided for the townhomes, and they have added that and taken care of that, so we can remove that comment. And there are some of the units, the townhome units are actually proposed as 3-story units, and because of that, the road in front of them has to be wider, 26-foot wide, and they had shown it on one page and not on another, so we'd ask them to show it consistently on all sheets, and that has been addressed and so that comment can be removed as well. I believe that's all that I've got this time.
Kevin, the 3-story ones, were they in the initial proposal when you had the?
Yes, they were.
Okay.
Which are those?
It's units, I think it's 94 through, they're kind of in the middle of the development. There's a kind of a courtyard area. Units 94 to 166, which are the units, like I said, there's a courtyard area, and they're actually rear-loaded units as well. And so there's an alleyway that's going to serve kind of two rows of them, or 4 rows of them, to two alley serving each alley would serve 2 rows. So it's kind of, like I said, in the middle or the northern part of the middle, I guess you would say.
Kevin, how does this project compare from a density perspective to what was approved at Hart Branch and some, maybe some of the other projects in the downtown area?
It's pretty similar, but a little slightly less than Harts Branch. I think Harts Branch was, I looked it up, about 7 per acre, or about 7.5 per acre. This one's about 6.7, so it's slightly less. It was, at the current iteration, it's about 6.7. It was about 7 last month when it was 222 townhomes. Alta Depot which is of course an apartment complex, but it is in the downtown, it was about 16.6 per acre. And then the Rock Springs Townhome Project, which was a small one there next to the Colony Square Apartments, was about a little over 9 per acre. So in that immediate area, that's what we've seen recent projects.
And I think we discussed last time that Imperial Gardens Boulevard, the connection there, is on the major thoroughfare plan. Is that
Yes.
correct?
That's correct.
And so with that, would we have then 2 more points of ingress and egress as is?
Eventually, you would have what's proposed is, of course, obviously the Rock Springs Road and then Ledbury Drive that was mentioned earlier, are the 2. Eventually, you would have a 3rd access point to Imperial Boulevard once that road gets extended.
Okay.
And there's also, they are showing a stub, and that was a staff recommendation, directly north as well, so when the property to the north develops, there could be an connection there as well.
We're talking about the,
The C2 property,
C2 property,
to the north of this
is
site.
it Smyrna Seniors?
That's on part of it, yes.
Part
sir.
of, for
Yeah.
part of that one, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Other questions for Kevin?
What does the timeline, I know I've asked this before, what does the timeline look like for Imperial?
It's the portion of it that's already been dedicated, the right-of-way there, will be used for access to the office warehouse development that was approved. Their first phase is going to be on the portion of the road that has already been built. For whatever reason, when the apartments were built, they didn't build all of the road. That goes back, I don't know, 30, 40 years, however long it's been. It wasn't done at the time, so the right-of-way is still there, but the road was never built. As they develop that northern piece of their development, they would be required to build the road. That was part of their approval, so. But as far as the timeline, yeah, I don't know. It's really
What
up to
about
them.
with the senior center coming on the other?
Yeah, that would be coming from the other direction. And I know that property has already been discussed. I don't know if it's actually changed hands yet or not, but
No, well, it's gonna be a lease regardless.
it's gonna be a lease, I'm sorry. Okay, so that we're actually gonna, they'll just have a lease, the town's gonna still own the property. I don't know how long that's gonna be. I know that that's probably gonna happen before the Imperial side, most likely.
Okay. Is there someone here representing the development? If you come forward and name and address, and just a couple questions from me.
Kevin Estes, 2925 Berry Hill Drive, Nashville, Tennessee. I'm Land Solutions, Jennifer Spikes, my boss. I also have some representatives from NVR, who's the builder. If you have building questions, they are available to answer some questions too. But I'll do my best.
Okay. Can you talk to me a little bit about the changes that you've brought for us this month as opposed to last month?
Sure. So last month, when we was here, there was a lot of questions about specifically Ledbury and whether it should be an access, whether it should be a gated access, things like that. And then there was some discussion about transition, and some brief discussion about tree canopies. So we went back, evaluated the traffic study pretty well, very detailed. And, you know, traffic's an emotional discussion that we all live with. My parents were born in Nashville. I've lived here for, God, old enough that I look like Santa Claus now. And, you know, it's getting worse everywhere. You can't deny that things haven't got busier and there's more cars on the road. But public roads are built to handle a significant amount of cars. I know people don't like to hear them, but none of these roads are close to being overwhelmed per a traffic study. And I repeat, because as an engineer, I got to rely on traffic studies and engineers that we hire. So as the engineer, these roads have adequate capacity out here for what is built, what is being built. And then as we develop and we need to do improvements like turn lanes and all, we always do them as developers as required. So I understand the fear and the concern over the traffic, but Rock Springs Road, Ledbury Road are not in trouble at this point per the traffic studies. Once again, I don't live out here. I'm not speaking as someone who lives out here. I'm just talking about the engineering studies. We did go back and decide it was probably a good idea to provide more of a transition because we are against very high density and we're transitioning ourselves to single family. But we did come and line up some fairly large product and square footage wise that backs up to the single family so that we do have a buffer of single family. We also did move the backs of those houses off so we could provide 30, 40 foot of a strip of trees to remain so that there can be existing vegetation, not the glorious stuff we developers plant, but you know, stuff that's been there longer to remain and provide some shielding and protection. And then we also did try around the ponds and some of the other places to provide more areas of trees so we could provide a perimeter of trees and save a decent amount of trees as we can. All property is beautiful, but this property does fall pretty good. It does have a pretty aggressive slope to it. So the 3-story product is as much for, some of it's going to be split where you have 2 stories on the front and then the drive-in garage under the back to help transition against some of that slope to work a little bit more with the existing topography. So, and a lot of the 3-story stuff does front the common courtyard, so you kind of have a front yard on a formal lawn, which is an attractive thing. And then as far as the parking, you know, Smyrna has taken great care to have 4.5 spaces per unit, especially in townhomes, to prevent parking on the streets, because I think no parking on the streets are allowed in any of the developments we've done in Smyrna over the last 7-8 years. So I can't speak to other neighborhoods and parking on the street, but I can tell you we provided 4.5 spaces for every unit, so that will not be an issue in our development. And other than that, that's really, and then someone had building size questions, and I quoted that, but NVR did correct me. So the smallest product we have in here is 1,517 square feet, I believe, and it goes up to 2,100. So our product doesn't fall below 1,500 square foot, and it goes up into the 2,000. And then single family would get a little larger than that. So.
Would you anticipate bringing this in phases here?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Have you
Have you seen interest rates?
Yeah.
No. Yeah, we're absolutely gonna bring this in probably 65 to 70 unit phases. We expect a 3-year build out.
Okay. All right, other questions?
Kevin, on the alley entries, because I don't see it on the map I'm looking at.
You want me to point to them?
No, I know where they're at. I'm curious as to, 26-foot streets would be required. Is there anything off of that street before they enter the garage?
No, it's
So
a
it's-
26-foot straight alley, and then the garages are
Garage
35,
fronts the street.
driveways are 35 feet, and then they enter the garage.
off the alley, they're 35 feet?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I was asking. So it's not just pulling in off the street into your garage?
No, you have a
Okay.
26-foot alley and then 35-foot driveway
Okay, that
to the
clarifies.
garage.
I think I saw that here, but I don't see the dimension.
Yes.
So I wanted to know
35
what the
feet.
dimension was.
Other questions?
I have several about the traffic study. I'm not sure who to direct them to. The traffic study is good at projecting flow. What it did not consider was any kind of traffic calming that might be appropriate for Ledbury and Mason Tucker. Do you have any thoughts about that?
Well, so when you talk traffic calming, I'm going to defer to the city because 99 times out of 10, the city has more issues with traffic calming than we do just do insurance things. So I know typically if we do a traffic calming in Nashville, which is one of the few places we do them, we kind of have to do them within inside our developments, and we do more speed tables nowadays than we do so-called speed bumps or rumble strips or things like that. And largely because the city with speed bumps, and just tell me shut up, but I haven't met a 16 to 20-year-old that drives well yet, and so they just blow over them, and then when the parents have to replace shocks, they call the city, and it's just a bunch of things. So I'll defer to the city about things like that. But no, we did not look at that. That wasn't something that was requested to look at. And they're really hard speed tables to go in after the fact because they raise up that intersection, causes drainage issues if they aren't planned for. So they're kind of hard to retrofit.
You know, I think we've all been trying to see if there's an alternative to the Ledbury exit. You know, I'm not sure that there is. I took a real hard look at the traffic study, but I think it's incumbent upon us to try to mitigate, if we are going to open up Ledbury, to try to mitigate and slow down the traffic. It's a very residential area.
I just don't, Charles, I may be wrong, but I just don't see an opportunity to, with what I'm looking at roadways, I'm not seeing an opportunity to get to some type of speed that would cause any issues. And just kind of thinking of a 3-year build-out and looking at what's to come, I think it's entirely appropriate to have this stubbed, and I think I'm seeing, again, with Imperial Gardens Boulevard and then the expanded entrance and exit ways off of Rock Springs, I'm a little hesitant as far as traffic calming, and we've had limited success in where it's been. And I think I'll defer to Charles to maybe.
Well, and fire and police as well.
Yeah,
Just,
police and fire, yeah.
Something we've discussed probably a dozen times.
Yeah, we put it in on Montgomery Way, and that was, I guess,
Yeah,
was
and
the
then
only
people
place we.
complained about it
Yeah,
being there.
Yeah.
They complained when it wasn't, and they complained.
Something when it was there, yeah.
I'll tell you something we're willing to do that, believe it or not, we've had as much success with traffic calming as anything, and that is, it's gonna sound silly, but it's a solar-powered sign that shows your speed. That kind of flashes when you, and it's, I don't know if it's something just
Will you put that in?
psychological. Huh?
Will you put that in?
Sure. But, I mean, we have put it on quite a few roads here recently, and according to the police, it has been as effective as something like speed bumps or things like that. And once again, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me because it just shows you your speed, but maybe it's psychological or something like that.
Well, I completely understand, when Mr. Miller spoke a while ago, I completely understand his concern there. Because I missed the last meeting, didn't get to have this discussion, I see that has been changed apparently from the last meeting to not have Ledbury drive in immediately into the denser part of the subdivision. So I appreciate the fact that you've taken single family and backed them up to single family. And then you've got a type C buffer shown on your plat here. When you mentioned a type C buffer, I heard you say something about leaving trees. Are you doing that in lieu of a type C, or are you gonna
Well,
plant a type C either way?
There's a lot of mature vegetation there, so we would do that in lieu of, because if you try to plant all the new trees against the mature vegetation, it just, the
Kevin,
roots
is,
wanna-
is that staff approvable?
Yeah, we can look at that. We've certainly had, fill in the gaps if there's any gaps, things like that.
And I think we was also proposing probably about twice the width of the type C as well, just to give a good survivability rate through there.
So, but when I look up here and looking on the plat I've got, the one road that goes into this owner's property, and of course, every owner has a right to sell the property, right? So when I look at that, the one road that stubs into this property is by design, I would assume. It's what the city does so they don't landlock people for safety and ingress and egress. Am I
Right.
right about that?
Right.
So, being a stub and not a cul-de-sac, we're starting to see why that was put there for the reason it was. And so just to help Mr. Miller kind of understand a little bit about why that's a stub street and not a cul-de-sac street, But I'm glad that there's been an approach taken to soften that backing up to their properties. I think it's important that they have a single family backing up to their property.
I also had a question about the lack of a left turn lane on Rock Springs into the development. I think we're just not looking forward enough, because you have a series of developments now. And if you have to pause at each one of them for 2 or 3 cars to make a left-hand turn lane, you're creating a real gridlock on Rock Springs.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that at all. I think that would be pretty necessary. The,
Don't you think Imperial will take care of that when that's,
Well, that's what we want to talk to Charles, I think.
Yeah,
Find out
Charles,
what the
can you-
plan is. There may be something coming that corrects that.
We know who you are, so.
Mr. Chairman, currently, we're not planning on widening Rock Springs Road, mainly because Rock Springs Road runs into front and then you run down. So it's almost a traffic calming by not having the left turn lane, that will slow traffic on Rock Springs Road. So it's kind of like the newest thing is the,
Keep them
roadway
stacked.
diet type thing, keeping it smaller. That way you do reduce the traffic speeds through there, because we've heard from other commission members about the speed on Rock Springs Road. So leaving it a 2-lane would help curtail speed on Rock
Would
Springs.
that be your recommendation?
My recommendation would leave it 2-lane as is, since you're running into Front Street. Otherwise, you're gonna have a higher speed volume of traffic running up into Rock Springs, into Front Street.
Even with the growth that's taking place in
Yes, sir.
that little area, you still would recommend
Leaving
not
it.
to put a turn lane in?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay, anything else for Charles?
I disagree. I think we're just buying ourselves mobility problems, and there are ways to control the speed of the traffic. But to not have a series of left-hand turn lanes is just going to result in gridlock. It's a very busy street now. This is going to add a significant number of cars to it.
We're taking the recommendation of our engineer, of course, and
I disagree.
And like I said, we would not want to put any type of speed humps or anything of that along Rock Springs Road, because it is a major thoroughfare collector through there, or up Mason Tucker, just for emergency services personnel.
Okay. Anything else for Charles?
No.
All right, thank you.
I do want to commend the builder, though. I think when we look at what we'd like for our town, to have a mixed community of houses and townhouses is something we've been looking to pursue, not just the townhouses, but have that mixture available.
I think we've gotten pretty strict on some of this with the smaller parcels. But a mixed use is something I think that it brings in a neighborhood.
Right.
It's a neighborhood.
Right,
Well, especially on 31 acres here.
It's a
right.
larger tract.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else? I will entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
I have a motion to approve
With staff
with
comments.
staff comments from Amy. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Okay. This motion's approved. We are now on to new business. Our first item under annexation zoning and plan of service request. Kevin, as I understand, Collins Grove has asked this to be deferred.
Yes, they've requested for a 1-month deferral.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to defer for 1 month.
I have a motion to defer for 1 month for Collins Grove. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second to defer for 1 month. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This motion is deferred. We are now on to Cooks Lane, 5458 Cooks Lane, annexation and PRD zoning request.
This is a request for an annexation of about 45.79 acres of property, all in one tract. Currently zoned RM in Rutherford County. It is a PRD, is part of the request. The surrounding zoning is R1 and the Gwynn Farms PRD in town and RM in Rutherford County. The land use plan would support medium-density, single-family residential in this area. Cooks Lane is designated as a collector on the major thoroughfare plan, and adequate right-of-way would be required to be dedicated as part of this development, and it is shown already on the concept plan that's in front of you. This requested PRD is for 145 single-family lots. The required minimum fire flow would be 1,000 gallons per minute at 20 PSI. This would, as it does abut the Gwynn Farms PRD, is not the developed portion of Gwynn Farms yet, but it has been approved from a zoning standpoint. That PRD that exists for Gwynn Farms has a stub street into this property, but it is at a different location than what Cooks Lane, this development is showing it. However, Gwynn Farms is looking to amend their PRD, and the requested amendment, which staff did receive this week, would line up with where they're showing this development. There's some environmental factors on the Gwynn Farm side that they're having to avoid, and so they're going to have to change where some of their streets were shown. And so, while it doesn't, if you look at the map that's on the screen right now, it doesn't make sense. It will, once staff is reviewing that PUD amendment, to allow for that new road location. So, water, as a part of this annexation request, the town would be providing all services, but water, except for water, which would be provided by CUD. Based on the will serve letter, which they had submitted from CUD, that fire flow is not adequate at this time. However, it can be achieved. There's an off-site improvement they can do to get to that point. Number 8, there's some significant topographical changes on this property, and so we would most likely have several critical lots. We would identify those at the preliminary plat stage if this is approved. That was really an informational comment more than anything for the developer. We did ask for a traffic study. That has not been submitted at this time, but they are aware that they have to do that, and any improvements recommended by that study would be required to be constructed by the developer. Number 10, as it says 145 lots, we will have to have 2 entrances. They are proposing, if you look at their phasing plan, to connect to that future section of Gwynn Farms as a part of phase 1. And so if that, as long as that happens, as well as the access to Cooks Lane, that would satisfy that requirement. But as long as that happens by that, before the 100th home is built in the development. Sewer will not be available until it's extended through that, at the adjacent Gwynn Farms development. So that will, is another factor in that road connection being built. Number 12, they had some, on the front, two front setbacks, on corner lots, they had the setbacks shown incorrectly. They've got it shown correctly now on their lot layout. I think there's some verbiage in there still shows less, so they'll need to make that consistent. Comment 13 has been addressed regarding the building elevations. That has been corrected, so it's consistent with what we were looking at there. Number 14, regarding the third-party HOA, HOA ownership and then administered by the third party, that has been taken care of, so it can be removed. Comment 15, regarding the phasing plan, that is shown, there's about 3 phases proposed here. Comments for that can be taken off. Comment number 16, regarding they had shown a public utility and drainage easement, basically on all area, basically on all, every setback was also an easement, so we asked them to remove that. So that's been taken care of. And then number 17, regarding the HVAC units on the back of the houses, that's been taken care of and has been added, so we can remove that. The rest of the comments are came from CUD. So they have addressed most of our comments. There's a couple little minor things with regards to the corner lots and things like that, but yeah, I think that's all I've got.
Okay, questions for Kevin on this?
But just from my understanding in this comment is, you said that the problem with the streets not matching is taken care of with what McGlynn Springs is, what
What
Gwynn
Gwynn
Springs.
Farms is going to do, yes.
Okay.
Is this the same developer as Gwynn Farms?
No.
Okay.
I was just kind of looking at this, it seems like it would be to both benefits because it would allow the section of Gwynn Farms to be able to access Cooks, so we have
Yeah,
another way
which
in
is
and
why
out
that
of
stuff
this.
was there in the first place. Again, it's changing the locations, but it was there to provide access to another way in and out besides Rock Springs Road and Lee Road. Yeah, it gets you another way in and out. 'Cause Gwynn Farms is a fairly large development, so.
Yes, it is.
So it takes some pressure off of both of those roads.
Right.
Okay.
Gwynn Farms does have turn lanes, as I recall.
On the Rock Springs Road side, yes, sir. I can't recall what was required in Lee. But on Rock Springs Road, yes, they're actually constructing those already on the Rock Springs Road side. And there may have to be something done within Cook's Lane.
Well, that's where I was going with next,
Yeah.
because that's a hill.
That traffic study is still to be submitted, but with the hill and with the curve and that sort of thing, that's certainly something we'll have to look at
So
closely.
they take care of that curve there.
So the traffic study will contemplate the connection to Gwynn Farms?
We'll have to include that, and then certainly, and then, of course, you got a couple other stub streets. At this time, Gwynn Farms would be the only one that actually would be active initially, at least at this time, as far as we know. And then again, primarily, the traffic study concern is primarily going to be that the access to Cook's Lane and what needs to be done within Cook's Lane for safe access points and sight distance and those kind of things.
Currently, we're just looking at the zoning portion of
It's
it.
just for zoning, yeah, they'll have to submit that with their first phase, the preliminary plan for the first phase.
Other questions for Kevin? Hearing no other questions from the commission, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve with staff comments.
I have a motion to approve with staff comments. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This motion is approved. We are now on to rezoning request. Our first item here is Robert McCormick, 5111 to 5115 New Nashville Highway, rezoning C2 to I1.
Yeah, this is a rezoning request. It's for a portion of a parcel. It's about 3.13 acres. It's what's been requested to be rezoned. Currently zoned C2, requested to be rezoned to I1. Surrounding zoning is a mix of C2 and C3 in town and RM in Rutherford County, which would be the kind of area to the east, as well as on the other side of Colonial Circle from the site. The land use plan for this area is the mixed-use corridor character area, which would be support a mix of retail and service uses, the local and regional scale. New Nashville Highway is a principal arterial on the major thoroughfare plan. Adequate right-of-way does exist. We'd ask for a map or legal description. The portion of the property, there's kind of a tree line through the property, and they don't want to rezone on the north or northwest side of that because it has a commercial use on it they want to keep. We did not get that description, so we don't have that exact description there. We kind of know what they're asking for. CUD did indicate they had enough fire flow to get to 1,500 gallons per minute here. This is a rezoning request, is actually a result of a codes enforcement action. There's multiple tractor trailers that have been parked there. And so that's not an allowed use in the C2 zone. And so Mr. McCormick did request this rezoning to allow for him to continue doing that. Obviously, that's the initial use, industrial use. If it's zoned that, it could be whatever, any other uses in the future, but that's what the initial use would be and why he had requested this, made this request. Again, all the surrounding zoning is commercial, at least in town, is in commercial, and then you have the residential to the east, and then on the other side of Colonial Circle as well. So it's in the county, but it's still zoned residential. So I think that's all I've got right now.
So if we rezone this industrial, it stays industrial.
Yeah, it's not a PUD. It would be anything allowed in I1. So any type of light manufacturing or warehousing or anything like that would be allowed there. For this use, obviously, the proposed use.
Well, this is sort of an entryway into our town limits. And so I'm looking at this map, and I can see it on the drawing up there. What is all the, I don't know what it is, behind the tractor trailer rigs down in that bottom corner?
Honestly, I don't know either. It shows up on the aerial photography.
I mean, is that just debris? I mean, what is that?
Yeah,
It looks like junk.
It looks like, that's what it looks like from overhead, yes. I don't know what the answer to that is. I know codes have been out to visit him, so,
So.
I don't know if that could be an issue that they're dealing with as well. I don't know. But
So if codes have been out to visit them, they know this use is not permitted, I'm sure.
yes, and that's why
in the
they've asked for
current
the
zoning.
reason.
So the motivation behind the request is to keep putting this stuff on the property.
Yes.
When it's not permitted to be there as it is today.
Correct.
Make a motion to deny.
I have a motion to deny from Mark. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion. All those in favor of denying this rezoning request signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This rezoning request is denied. Okay, we are now on to preliminary plats. Our first item is Gwynn Farms Phase 3, Robert Gwynn Drive, owner, developer, Lennar Homes of Tennessee LLC.
Yeah, this is Phase 3 of Gwynn Farms. It's about 15.57 acres within this phase. It's 63 lots. This is kind of just the next phase of the overall development is consistent with what was on their overall master plan. This phase, there is some, in future phases, there would be some townhomes within Gwen Farms, but this is all single family. We had several comments that, the first 4 would need to remain. They're all just kind of standard type comments. Comment number 5, we did make a note just that Rock Springs Road is a collector, and those are improvements that are under construction there within Rock Springs Road as part of the phase 1 and 2 of this development. Comment number 6 was something I asked for, and again, that's kind of was the impetus, not just for the Cooks Lane development, for this future development of this development, Gwen Farms. Because they had shown their master plan within the plat that they had shown on phases, sheets 3 and 4, wasn't consistent with what was approved, and so we did ask for that amendment. Again, so they have done that. That doesn't affect this phase, that's only for future phases, but that has been submitted now. Comment number 7, there was a kind of this random 25-foot measurement, a couple of lots, and it didn't make sense, and so they have removed that. It was something that was left over for something else that they needed to take off, so they took care of that. And then comment number 8, there's some retaining wall, and they're showing some storm pipes within that area, and so we'd ask them to relocate that to be away from those pipes. Their response was there actually are some areas that they're actually designing within the retaining wall that there would be, the pipes would actually go through the retaining wall. I'm going to defer to Charles and to Tom on that as far as when they get to their grading permits and the grading plans review. But that is what they were, that was the engineer's response to that comment. So I want to probably keep that comment, just to allow them to address that with him. And then, again, 6 and 7 can be removed, and we would recommend approval with those remaining comments.
Okay. Questions for Kevin? Do I have a motion?
Move to approve with staff comments.
I have a motion to approve with staff comments from Charles. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Amy. Further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This motion is approved. Our next item under preliminary plats is Williamsport Drive, Section 1. Williamsport Drive, owner developer Syndicate Properties, LLC.
So this is a preliminary plat for phase 1 of the Williamsport Drive development. You all have seen this for a sketch plat, and so this will be just for phase 1, the preliminary plat. This is in the R3 zone. This is about 19.11 acres. It's 45 lots in this phase. Again, we had several comments, really 1 through 5 are standard comments that we still need to keep. Comment 6, it's 1,000 gallons per minute, 20 PSI is the required minimum fire flow. We did add a note because we're aware that some of the lots in here might potentially be over the 3,600 square foot limit, which would, if that happens, there would be required to have additional fire flow. We wanted to make sure they were aware of that. Comment 7 was just regarding construction plans to be submitted to utilities. There is a retaining wall shown, and we'd ask for those details. It is actually going to be along one of the public streets, and so we want to be sure that's built correctly, because it's going to be holding up part of the street. So that's something we're concerned about. Again, that'll come. That hasn't been submitted yet, but we do need those plans. Number 9, we'd ask for, this is the subdivision where Williamsport Drive is stubbed into both sides, and it was approved to not be extended and connected. And so one side, which is going to be the east side, is where the new road name is proposed. They do have that name shown. We do not have the 911 approval of that name yet. And that just, they will have to notify those, some existing property owners there. They're going to have the new addresses because their road name is changing. So they'll have to go through that piece once they get their name approved. We had several comments that have all been addressed. Comment number 10 regarding that they had some City of Murfreesboro details on there, and we asked them to replace that, and they've done that. Number 11, they only had one mail kiosk shown, and they had stated that's typically what the post office wants to have. However, in this situation, because the road's not connecting one side or the other, is going to have to drive all the way around St. Francis to get their mail. So we asked them to show one on both sides, and they have shown that now. So hopefully the post office will approve that. Number 12 has been addressed with regards to the additional 5-foot setback that's required on lots that have easements on the sides, so we can remove that one. Comment 13 has been addressed with regards to the land set aside, just some dimensions and area for the common areas. Comment 14 has been addressed with the roadway lighting plan, has been submitted. 15, we'd ask them to extend the water main and put a hydrant at the end of the Williamsport Drive on the west side, which will remain Williamsport Drive, and that's been addressed. Show the existing water main locations and sizes, and that's been done, so we can remove 16. 17 has been corrected with regards to the water main, to the sewer main size. So essentially, in summary, I guess that's 10 through 17 can all be removed. Comment 18, we'd ask them to label some distances on the easements that are on property lines. That has been partially addressed. There's still a few lots, 16 through 18, 35, 38 through 39, and then 40 through 44 still need to be done in that regard. Comment number 19 has been addressed. They have corrected that issue with the head walls and some of the drainage going on some adjoining property owners. I do need to add one comment that's not on the list. When I looked at the plats today, on lots 42 and 43, there is a 20-foot drainage easement. However, the storm pipe appears to be outside of that drainage easement, so they need to either move the pipe, move the easement, or make the easement bigger, whatever is the easiest for them, but they need to take care of that as well. So, and with those comments as revised, we would recommend approval.
Questions for Kevin? I know we've had quite a bit of conversation on this,
Yeah,
both
we
at a
have.
planning and a council level here.
Well, I'm glad to see that we held firm to what we wanted to see there. And we heard a lot from the citizens that live there. And this is consistent with the exact same thing they live on. So I'm pleased to know that this land developer decided to make sense of that and build single-family homes that match the area. So,
Other comments or questions? Do I have a motion?
I'll move to approve with all the staff comments.
A motion to approve with staff comments. Do I have a second? Motion and a second. Further discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This motion is approved. We are now on to final plats, the first one being Buyer Subdivision, Redbird Way. Owner, developer Susan and Philip Buyer.
Yeah, this is a final plat. It's one lot is proposed, it's just off of Walton Avenue. Redbird Way is a stub street into this property. So currently it's zoned R2. We had several comments on this. A lot of those comments would go away if the owner has requested a variance from the subdivision regulations. Essentially, the subdivision regulations only allow for one subdivision lot to be created off of a private easement. There is an existing lot that exists labeled as Lot 1 on this plat shown there. That's existed, it's been there a little while. The developer or the owner would like to create a second lot, which is labeled as Lot 4. And then both of them would then be accessing off a private easement that would come off of the stub street of Redbird Way. They have requested to be able to do 2 lots off of the private easement, and so that would have to be a waiver that this commission would have to grant them in order to do that. Again, we had several comments regarding extending the street as a public street, and with the development agreements and all that would go with that. There are a few things that would remain regardless. Comments number 5 regarding the minimum fire flow. Comments 7, 12, and 13 have been addressed, so we can take those off. We don't have the 911 approval for the Dane Redbird Way, and they still have to, that's number 9. Comment number 10 regarding the hydrant would have to be within 500 feet of all lots. They'll have to do that. Comments 11 and 14 are regarding, I would kind of defer to the fire department a bit on this. There's a gate currently at the end of Redbird Way, and then a turnaround. If a turnaround might be needed, if it's over 150 feet. Even if it's a private drive, they might have to have a turnaround. So that's comments 11 and 14. I would kind of defer to the fire department for those. But again, if the waiver is granted, the variance is granted, they can basically, that would remove several of our comments. But if it doesn't, without the waiver, they would be required to build a public, or extend the existing public street with a cul-de-sac or some sort of turnaround at the end in order to develop more than the 1 lot that's already there. So, and they're here. I'm sure they would like to speak to you if possible, and what their thinking is and why they're asking for this variance. So,
Okay. Now, I'll suspend the rules and allow, is it Mr. Byer?
Yes.
I'll allow you to speak.
Philip Byer, 1202 Sam Davis Road. As you can see, that's been it's really been a private haven for us as a family. And I have my son has the 1 lot over there. He's going to be building he calls it his forever home. And our daughter, who she started a business here in Smyrna about a year ago, and she lives out in the Nolansville area. And she wants to be closer to her mother now, and she wants to build her forever home on that lot.
When you say
And-
that
and-
lot, which is,
Yeah,
let's
yeah.
do lot numbers so I can make sense of it.
Can I point to it?
Sure.
yeah, it's lot 4, labeled as lot 4.
Lot 4 is the daughter's,
Right here, that's gonna be the daughter. My son,
lot 1 was
This
just
is
a-
mostly, but up in here, he's gonna build his house. And we didn't really, and that's our barn and stuff. Of course, our house is over here. And they didn't really want a cul-de-sac coming in here. I mean, that's the whole point of having this in the family. And we are not gonna build out any other lots or anything. That's gonna be their like, little haven. And we just want to keep that in the family, and we just didn't want people driving up in there, as a public street, because we have.
There's a gate there
right
now.
here Right now.
yeah. Of course, the gate, you said the gate would have to come down.
Well, I mean, I think that's thinking I've kind of deferred to the fire department. Typically, if we have a gate, there's
I
some
would
sort
think
of,
because of the fire
device
department,
or something like that, that if there is a gate, it can be opened automatically.
Right.
There's-
Oh, you
that
mean
might
for
be an
fire or
option for them.
something like that?
Seems like, I don't know, I've been doing this a
You've
little
been
while.
out there before.
Well, I came out when you all were doing like an event,
We were thinking about turning that barn into an
into
event
in
center.
a wedding,
And
yeah,
that was just too much for us.
okay, I remember that now.
Yeah. It's real private back in there, and that, they just wanted to have their families, 2 families there.
Yeah, have you heard from anybody that lives around it?
No, of course, we haven't had any kind of
Right.
advertisement of any kind or anything like that either, so.
Mr.
Certainly,
Byer,
but-
have you talked to anybody that lives,
I know all my neighbors there. I know Lee and,
do you know how they feel
Yeah.
about that?
oh, yeah, they know we had those lots up. Yeah, I told them we were gonna put them up for sale, and nobody ever said anything. I even offered them, if they wanted to, I said, if y'all could keep it private, I offered to sell them this over here, this, because they're gonna be here. I said, if y'all want that, plant garden or something, not, that guaranteeing nobody's gonna build, but now we're not, I see the variance, I see that what would have to happen if I added lots, so there's no plan to add any more lots. We're gonna keep it private. And they're gonna build nice homes, it's not gonna be, at least somewhere around 2,500 square feet, really nice stuff that's gonna fit really pretty into the neighborhood. And, oh, one other thing too. This is, you can't even see, this is a lot of vegetation here. You can't even see that. And over here, on this, there's a big wall here. It's just real private. If you've ever been out there, it's just real private.
I want to make sure that I'm understanding what would happen if this remained an easement versus a road from a fire perspective. What would be required in that scenario?
Well, it would be similar to any private driveway. They'd have to provide, we'd have to be able to get access to it. We've got some situations in town where there's fairly long driveways and steep and whatnot that the fire department couldn't get to. This is not a situation here. It's fairly level and
Yeah,
that
it's
sort of thing.
flat. It's very flat.
We wouldn't have to worry about that here, but certainly they would have to have a surface that they could traverse and that sort of thing.
What type of surface would be required?
Typically some sort of, asphalt or concrete or whatever, I think is what they would prefer, certainly. And then you'd have to have, if it gets over 150 feet, they may have to have a turnaround. So I don't know what try to check the distance on that, but they would have to have some sort of within the site somehow, a way for them to turn around, a hammerhead or
Well, that's
cul-de-sac or
what,
whatever.
yeah, and I thought you'd say hammerhead, but I wanted Mr. Byer to know, if the commission were inclined to go one way being an easement, there would be some requirements still as far as being able to get fire equipment in there and then out of there.
Distance, 60 feet. Yeah, you're well over, because the Redbird Way, just the public portion of that is about almost up at right 150 feet, so there would have to be some sort of turnaround created, and it can be done within kind of part of their driveway almost, I guess. They would have to have some sort of open area they would have, because it's going to be their driveway, because it's going to be the drive-in, but they could have, they're going to have a turnaround there, basically.
Okay.
It'd be
does-
fire code.
And does the gate go away with an easement versus a street?
I mean, again, we have gates in town now, they have to have some sort of
Okay, that's where I'm headed.
the Yelp devices or whatever.
Remote.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah. So they could keep the gate, but they might have to modify it to be,
okay.
to open automatically, that sort of thing.
Ms. Byer, did you have something to add?
No, I just couldn't hear.
Oh, okay.
I thought you were offering him some help.
You looked like you had something very important and you were ready to say something.
Speak for now, I really.
No,
Right,
these,
hold your peace.
we look forward to, our son has already bought that part of the property. Our daughter is considering it, so, and they pretty much have decided.
Okay.
So you have to decide.
You must have some pretty nice neighbors, because I remember when you were here before, I did take the time to check with a few of those people,
Yeah,
and all of them at that point in time said you were a good neighbor.
yeah.
I think I actually supported it. I know it didn't go through, but I remember that time. It's been several years ago.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And that was for a whole different product.
yeah.
Kevin, how do you look at this from a staff perspective? What's your,
Yeah. It's not something we have done very, if at all. I can only think of maybe one time that I can think of we've done it. There was it's not like we hear it, well, it's requested a lot either. It's not like it's something we've seen a lot, but off the end of Old Jefferson Pike, there was some tracks, larger 5-acre plus tracks there. There was there when we annexed that area, and one of those they divided into two lots or whatever. It would have required a much, actually a much longer stretch to this than this of a public road to get back to it, and that was, at that time, it was approved. That's been several years ago. So it's not something I would recommend we do a lot, just because the regs were there for a reason, and if the fire access and all those things is part of the reason why, and having access to public, frontage on a public road is typically what you would like to see. This is, I guess, at least now it is a unique situation, that it is all family members and that sort of thing. Obviously, once property changes hands, it can change, it certainly would change hands in the future. Down the road, it won't all necessarily be family members. It could change hands in the future.
I guess
down the
that's
road.
my question is, what if, lot one, sells, the son sells? What does that do to the easement that we've just?
I mean, the
approved?
easement, and they'll
It
have
goes
to
with
have
property.
some sort of a.
It stays with the property.
The easement goes with the property. They'll have to, and that's something we'll have to get, that the regs do require, is get to it so I can read it, make sure I get it correctly. There have to be some sort of legal documentation establishing that easement and kind of the long-term maintenance of the agreement, kind of like an HOA, not an HOA necessarily, but kind of the similar idea that they're gonna have to be, as far as that long-term maintenance of that easement for really, it's 2 tracks, 2 lots, but then the other remaining acreage that's there to have access to and maintenance of, so.
Kevin, I seem to recall something now on Rock Springs Road where we had some situation where there were 2 homes. And I know that we had discussion either about one of the home in the rear of their property either being sprinklered or moving a hydrant. Is
That's over there behind Dollar General.
this similar?
Yeah.
Am I thinking of something?
That is a similar situation. They did have frontage on, enough frontage, they had frontage on, both lots when they had frontage on Rock Springs Road.
So that was the difference
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, they were gonna kind of share access with the one single driveway, but they actually both had frontage on Rock Springs Road.
Okay.
Now, the original plat for that had 3 lots, and that 3rd lot was not gonna have access, or wouldn't have frontage on Rock Springs Road, so to speak, but that went away. It only did the 2 lots.
And then I think we had something else similar with a Habitat home off of Enon Springs.
Yeah, I think both lots still had frontage on a public road, but they had to,
One alley?
one was on the, kind of that street in the back, I can't recall the name now, but
Yeah.
that narrow street in the back, and then one was.
For
fronting
whatever
on
reason,
Enon
I thought we had
Springs.
a driveway that went from.
There
Enon
was
Springs.
a driveway required so that the fire department could get to the house in the back.
Right.
Across the lot, but again, they both had frontage on a public street.
Okay. Anything else for the buyers? You can sit down if you like.
Do we need something in more, a request in writing rather than a verbal request?
I mean, if you would like that, I mean, I don't know if you have to have that, but yeah, if you wanted to, I mean, if you wanted something, them to put in writing what they've told you verbally tonight, if you feel better with that, I mean, that's certainly something you could request, and you know, I think the other issue, like, we do need to, and that's something I haven't talked with them about, so this is not something, this is news to them too, regarding that, those documents kind of establishing the long-term maintenance of the easement. Again, as property changes hands, it's not necessarily all family members long-term. There's some sort of agreement similar to an HOA of how that drive and all is going to be maintained for, so to everyone's taken care of there, so.
Can you, for everyone, kind of explain briefly the difference of this being a public road versus an easement, as far as what would the requirements be as far as the construction of the roadway with things along those lines?
Well, obviously, there's no right-of-way, so that's, I mean, their easement's already there at 50 feet wide, so I mean, the easement width is the same, which is what we require. As far as the construction, again, it's not gonna be a public street, so they wouldn't have to necessarily have the base and the binder and the last layer of asphalt and all that. It would have to be something that could be traversed by a fire truck, but it wouldn't necessarily have to meet the public street standards, other than, again, having that turnaround that would, again, not the right-of-way necessarily, but within that property, having that turnaround there for the fire truck, however they want to, anything that can meet the fire, whatever they can do to meet the fire code, there's options for them. There's not one size fits all on that. But again, it wouldn't have right of way or anything like that. It would just be in that private easement. And they have to work with our utilities department as far as getting services and those kind of things, and how they have to deal with that. But that's a separate issue. They will have to add a hydrant, which that was required as a part of Lot 1 on your bond report tonight. With their bond, which is an escrow account, is coming up for to put the fire hydrant in there, kind of at that entrance there at Walton Avenue and Redbird Way to get to within the 500 feet. So that one hydrant will take care of both of these lots.
Okay. Other questions or discussion? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
We'll make the motion to approve to get it on the table.
To approve with
With all staff.
staff comments.
Does anything need to be added about, of course, I know we've got it to meet fire codes, but the long-term agreement, do we need to add anything about that also?
I think, yeah, I've verbally said that, it's not on the written, so we can certainly add that. That's, Ms. Atkins wishes to.
I'll amend my motion and add that to the motion.
Okay.
So the issue, as I understand it, is whether it's going to be a public street or an easement? Is that the?
Well, the waiver would be to have the second lot off a private easement, yeah, the variance. So, and if you, what I understand, the motion would approve the plat with that variance, and then the comments as applicable there, including the agreement on the maintenance of the driveway. So,
And if the gate stays, obviously, we know what has to happen at that gate, correct?
right,
It's in the minutes.
sure.
Fire department's covered on there, ingress, egress, and radius.
Right,
All that's
the
covered.
turnaround,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so that's the motion. Did I get a second on that?
No,
I didn't think so.
I'll second.
I just have an amended motion, that's
Right.
where we're at right now.
So we have the amended motion with a Now we have a second.
We do?
Yeah.
That was the original motion,
Oh, there's that, well,
because it never got seconded, so that's all part of one.
still,
motion. Yeah.
okay, so we're still on one motion here. Okay, and then Amy had a
That's why I was
second.
waiting.
Okay. Correct, Amy, that was second from you? Okay, motion and second. Further discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to move for reconsideration of 8C2,
8C2.
Williamsport.
Okay.
Or, I mean, if I could just discuss why.
Jeff, we good?
Well, you'd have to get a second on that,
All
number
right,
one,
so
but then
let-
I need to look up on reconsidering in the same meeting. But you can talk about it right now, you can discuss
Yeah,
it.
go ahead.
Looking at the very heavily wooded area, and I've not been part of these discussions, I understand this has been discussed at great length. Is the developer going to keep the tree buffer around the perimeter of the development?
There's no requirement that he do so. The property is all R3 around it as well as this development, so there's not a required buffer.
It's not a zoning change.
It's not, it's all, it's the same district on both sides, so there's no
Okay.
requirement of a buffer from the zoning standpoint. And just looking at the grading plan, I wouldn't anticipate there'd be a lot left because it's a pretty steep topography. He's got to move a lot of dirt up there, but there is an area kind of in the middle, I think, where there's some kind of a wet weather conveyance or something that it's going to be in common area that maybe left alone somewhat. But as far as the buffer to the surrounding property owners, again, there's nothing required. Now, some of the lots on the northern end of it are pretty big, and so there may be some of that left on that side, just because of the topography of it, they'll leave it alone. But again, I don't really know the true answer to that because it's not shown on the plans one way or the other, and he's not required to have a buffer, so.
So from a procedural standpoint, a motion to reconsider would be
So-
made at the next meeting?
Well, no, so you were on the prevailing side, you voted, all voted aye in that, on the Williamsport, is that true?
That's what I have. yeah.
Okay, then no, that would be a proper motion if you had a second, you could reconsider,
Okay, so
in this meeting.
Well, while we're just discussing things, do we have the ability to require a buffer?
I don't, again, there's nothing within the zoning ordinance that would dictate a requirement there. I
If
don't
this were a
know.
PRD, it'd be different.
If it was a PUD, certainly it would be
Yeah.
allowed or required. You could certainly discuss that.
or if we were going from a commercial to a
Yeah, if
residential.
if this was a
Kind of
residential, if they were
rezone,
abutting a commercial piece of property or something or, certainly we could, but
Well, they are required to maintain the existing vegetation to the maximum extent possible under the design guidelines.
yeah, the design guidelines actually, because this is it's actually not applicable because it's single family. R3 zone. They really don't apply in this case, unfortunately, so.
So what is the discretion on this? It was and I was not part of the earlier discussions, but it sounds like you had very robust discussion.
Well, the original, there was a rezoning request to have a mixture of single-family and townhomes on this property.
Okay.
And that request was turned down, and the R3 district.
So they've gone back to the
They've gone back,
underlying zone.
the underlying zone, the base zoning, or the zoning was already R3, and they basically had and there was a sketch plat, several months ago, that looked at the entire property just in a concept standpoint. And so this is basically the preliminary plat for that first phase of that. It's consistent with the approved sketch plat.
And everything that they've proposed is within the allowable guideline.
Yes.
I withdraw my motion.
All right. We are now on to Cedar Grove Village, 349 Cheney Road, owner developer Caroline Farms, LLC.
So this is the final plat. This is, Cedar Grove Village is the property on Cheney Road that was about 7.3 acres property for a townhome development. This is essentially to dedicate their easements and everything there for that. This plat is consistent with the approved PRD and the site plan that's already been approved for this site. We had a couple very minor comments regarding the thoroughfare plan and the radical right-of-way is shown already there for Cheney Road, and that they need to add the signatures of the owner prior to the submittal for recording. So those two minor comments, so we would recommend this to you.
Everything is just like it was
Yes,
on the approved preliminary.
yes, on the approved site, well, the PRD and the site plan, yeah.
Other questions for Kevin? I will entertain a motion then.
Move to approve the staff comments.
A motion to approve with staff comments. Do I have a second?
Second.
Oh, I'm sorry, second.
Motion and a second, okay. Further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This motion is approved. Our last item under final plats is Harts Branch Village Phase 2, Rock Springs Road, owner, developer, Regent Homes, LLC.
And this is the final plat. This is just phase 2 of the Harts Branch Village. This is about 5.35 acres of it. Again, same kind of minor comments we had on the previous plat as far as the thoroughfare plan and the right-of-way is shown to be dedicated with this plat along Rock Springs Road. And then again, just add the owner signatures. Again, this is consistent with the approved PRD and the site plan for this project.
Questions or comments?
Move to approve, staff comments.
I have a motion to approve with staff comments. Do I have a second? Second. Motion and a second. Further discussion? All those in favor of approving signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This final plat is approved. We are now on to site plans. Our first is Advanced Auto Arts, 1929 Emerald Road. Owner, developer, RAM Smyrna Partnership and JMB Investment Company. Mitchell.
Advanced Auto Parts is going to be proposing for a new retail facility in a multi-tenant building at 1929 Olneyville Road. The total building square footage would be about 10,112 square feet, with the retail space occupying 6,912 square feet. The remaining square footage as part of that development would be set aside for medical use. A single access point is proposed off of Olneyville Road, and a dedicated exit lane is shown on the north side of the property. Currently, the lots of proposed development are vacant and would need to be combined via a recorded plat, via a final plat prior to issuance of any building permits. Vehicle use area for the site is a little bit less than a half acre at 0.46, which does require about 2,025 square feet of landscaping, and they're showing for 2,034 square feet. Park required of 44 spaces, they're showing for 45. And that does require 2 handicap spaces, and they're showing for 2 at this time. The landscape plan shows sugar maple trees lining the road frontage along Olneyville Road with shrubbery planted between the trees and parking lot. Additional landscaping is shown in landscape islands throughout the parking lot and surrounding the dumpster enclosure. We have received revised plans since the package did go out last week, so on the back of the site previously was a row of some arborvitaes and evergreens for a buffer between this commercially zoned property and the residential zone property behind it. So Problem with that is there is a sewer line that does run along the backside of this property, the track to the north, which would need to be extended as part of this development to serve this lot. As a result, can't have some shrubbery and trees on top of the sewer lines and within the sewer easement. Roots cause issues with the utility lines in the future at some point, so utilities will not have any evergreens or trees, period, within that easement and on top of the sewer lines. So as a result, they removed all of that vegetation from that area behind the building where a typical buffer would be located at. As a result, they've put a 6-foot privacy fence along that back property line, which staff has requested them to do, and they have done so, just to kind of repair what buffer would have been there. So they have done that at this time. And then the design review, all 4 elevations consist of primary materials of brick and glass glazing, which does meet the design review. Standard comments 1 through 5 will all remain at this time. Staff comment 1 is regarding the fire flow at the site, which is 2,250 gallons per minute at 20 psi for the type VB construction which they are proposing for this development. This can be reduced if the building has a fire sprinklers installed, but the reduction varies depending on the type of sprinkler system chosen. This site is serviced by CUD water, and CUD has indicated there's not adequate fire flow to meet the minimum requirement, even at the highest possible reduced amount of 1,000 GPM at 20 psi. Town staff recommends the developer contact CUD to determine what upgrades would be required to obtain adequate fire flow. So, at this time, there is a 2-inch water line on the same side of the road as this proposed development. 2-inch line does not serve adequate fire flow to basically allow development of this site at this time. Comment number 2, as existing, there are 2 lots, and those lots will need to be combined via the combination plat prior to issuance of any building permits. Comment number 3 is regarding the dumpster enclosure. They have addressed that comment and can be removed. Comment number 4 is regarding construction entrance, rock diameter size, and they have done so. And that comment can be removed. Comment number 5 is a cement mixer clean out, and that's more of a public works comment, so we'll leave that comment at this time. Comment number 6, the HVAC units will be rooftop mounted. Previously, it was believed by staff that the HVAC units would be visible from the public roadway. So as a result, they have increased the parapet on the front of the building, so the rooftop mounted units would not be visible from the roadway. So staff believes at this time it is adequate and can be removed. Comment number 7 was regarding the sprinkler system. That kind of goes along with comment number 1 and the required gallons per minute for the fire flow. Comment number 7 will remain. Comment number 8 was regarding the required parking calculations. That has been addressed. Comment number 9 was regarding the landscape buffer in the back of the property. Basically saying you can't have the landscaping in the back where the sewer easement's at. So they have removed landscaping, and comment number 9 has been addressed. Comment number 10 was the submit construction plans for the sewer extension. So this is a Town of Smyrna Utilities extension, so we would like them to submit those plans to our utilities department for review. Comment number 11 is for the impervious area for the site, and that has been shown, so that can be removed. The service line to the building would be required to be a 6-inch line. They have shown that, can be removed as well. Comments 13, 14, 15, and 16 are all CUD. There is a existing 12-inch water main along the western side of Almonville Road across the street in front of Legends, which in theory would have adequate pressure to serve this site. So that is a discussion which the developer would have with CUD in order to get adequate pressure to serve this site. Basically, the developer has indicated that they're in discussions with CUD as far as what can be done to obtain adequate fire flow for this site at this time. So comments 13 through 16 will all remain. Additional comment, upon speaking with the fire department earlier today, being this is Almonville Road, it is a TDOT roadway, so TDOT has some say as far as what the entrance and exits look like as part of this development. TDOT's indicated they would like 2 14-foot drive aisles, one for dedicated entrance, one for dedicated exit. However, as a result of that, there's an issue getting larger vehicles into the site, whether it be a delivery truck or a fire truck. So it's kind of a mess as far as what's what's gonna work out here in regards to what TDOT would like to see versus what the town needs to see as far as safety is concerned for the fire truck. So, that is something that is currently ongoing between the developer, town, and TDOT as far as what a correct turnaround looks like, if one is needed. Currently, the revised plans, the plan from last week, what's shown on here is showing a dedicated swinging right-hand turn out. Those have been revised to show basically an emergency-only exit, which has not been approved by TDOT at this time. So if TDOT decides to reject that plan, they would have to revise the plans to meet fire department requirements as far as whatever turnaround is required, whether it be shifting the building to be entire circumvent around the building, or it's whatever our fire department feels comfortable with approving at that time. So basically what they're showing is not approved yet, so that's still something that could be up for debate as far as how that looks for ingress and egress to the site. And that is all I have. We would recommend approval, assuming everything can get accomplished. And it's mainly the water and the ingress and egress to the site.
Do you anticipate what we're looking at, that the ingress and egress are shown in the same general vicinity as far as what TDOT's looking at approving? Or could that potentially move maybe more center of the lot, or do we know yet?
Charles, do you have any indication on that?
Moving it to the center, I don't believe it'll work for the developer, so that's something we're still working with. Having the main wider entrance further away from the intersection works for the town, and TDOT is the secondary that TDOT's not liking. They do not like the one full 36-foot business entrance with a secondary exit. That's why they came back with a 14-foot at the one location, and then at the emergency exit, putting a 14-foot exit there. So that's something and TDOT and the developer, we've had conference calls about and still trying to work out to satisfy all the different requirements. But they would be in that general position if there is only two. If there's only one, may ask the developer, but I don't believe that'll work for his turnaround either, by moving the one 36-foot entrance to the center.
How does an emergency exit only work?
It would be bollard
Okay.
that fire could get in. It's my understanding with fire, it's getting out, that they don't have to back up all the way. So they would have time to remove the bollards to exit. It would not be for an emergency entrance.
Okay. Do we know, do we have a timeline or resolution of this?
No, TDOT indicated that it may take some time for them to run it up further to their administration to see what they would accept. The developer has submitted approval that has one that was on a state route in Knoxville for consideration, so that's what they're looking currently at.
Okay. Other questions for Charles or staff?
What's the material on the privacy fence?
I believe it was a vinyl privacy fence.
I want to make a note of that in minutes, please. I don't want an old gray wood fence back there. That's what I thought. Yeah, that's why I'm asking the question.
Because that's why I brought it up.
Did you note that?
Yeah.
It references the landscape plan, it says opaque fence, it doesn't say vinyl. At least I haven't found it yet, but maybe it does somewhere.
I saw opaque.
Just make that as a condition.
Something besides wood.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's what I wanted to clarify, really.
Other questions or comments? Do I have a motion?
Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve, subject to staff comments, and making sure we denote that an agreement between town staff and the fire department and TDOT are in concert with one another.
And the fence, you want to
And the fence, well, I think I put that in the minutes, but yes, the fence not to be a wood fence, but an opaque fence. Did I cover that, Council? Is opaque too general?
Yeah, because the wood fence could be opaque.
Okay. Well, I said not to be a wood fence.
So something not wood that's opaque.
Do you want me to be more specific?
Well, no, I think it's fine with
I
staff.
think they know what we're saying.
That was staff approval.
The staff approval. Yeah.
We're good?
I'm good.
All
It's a long motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion? All those in favor of approving signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Site plan is approved. Our next item is complete installation. Animal Removal Incorporated, Charles W. Ferguson.
This is a new industrial two-warehouse building at 215 Mill Lane. One of these warehouses is proposed to be about 24,420 square feet, and the other is proposed to be 16,000 square feet. The western side of Mill Lane is within Smyrna limits, and the eastern side is governed by Rutherford County. There is a variety of uses in the surrounding area, which do include residential, industrial, and a religious facility. Currently, there is a single-family residential dwelling that would be removed as part of this development, and 2 access points are proposed off of Mill Lane. Vehicular use area for the site, we've been revised here a little bit since last week when the packets wasn't sent out. We're looking at 0.82 acre, which does require 2,874 square feet of landscaping, and they are showing for 3,804 square feet. Parking required 47 spaces, and they're showing for 62, and that requires 3 handicap parking spaces, which they are showing. The landscape plan shows a variety of trees planted along the front of the site, along the roadway, as well as within landscape islands. Shrubbery is shown at the base of the front building. The southern property line abutting the R3 zoning district requires a type D landscape buffer since we got industrial abutting residential. Due to the topography at the southern property line, the applicant is requesting approval for a landscape buffer as presented without a typical berm. Due to the elevation increase as you continue south, basically it's providing more or less a natural buffer in itself of a berm rather. So at planting, the evergreen trees will be placed at a height of approximately 3 3/4 feet up to about 5.5 feet tall. So that more or less creates what your berm already would be under a typical type D buffer. Architectural elevations show a mixture of metal, brick, and glass glazing for the front building, with the rear building to be finished with primary material of metal and glass and glazing. The east elevation of the front building, which faces Mill Lane, is to have 65% mixture of brick and glass glazing, with the remaining material to be metal. All the other elevations on the front building and all of the elevations on the rear building are to have over 80% metal. Metal siding is allowed as a primary material in the industrial zones if the elevation is not visible from an arterial street. So we did ask the developer to increase the amount of brick being on that front building that is facing Mill Lane to have a little bit of a nicer appearance than just straight up metal. So they have done that, and staff is okay with the elevations that they have presented to us. Standard comments 1 through 5 would all remain at this time, and comment 1 was regarding to submit construction plans as far as the utilities are concerned to our utilities department. Comment number 2 is regarding the fire flow. At minimum to be required is 1,000 GPM at 20 PSI, assuming the building is sprinkled. CUD, this is falling within CUD service area, and CUD has indicated that this cannot be met at this site. The town staff recommends the developer contact CUD to determine what upgrades would be required to obtain adequate fire flow at this site. As the buildings are proposed to be placed on or extremely close to the building setback lines, the footings and foundations must be staked by a land surveyor prior to inspection by the codes department. The survey of the lots on the of the lot lines shown on the site plan do not match the lot lines as drawn in by the property assessor. The southwest property line is offset by approximately 29 feet, which causes both the buildings to not meet the setback lines along that southern property line, as well as the Type D landscape buffer, which would be placed a little bit on that southern property line. So we asked them to verify that. The applicant did indicate the survey done by them is correct, and while it may be true, we would recommend that the developer get in touch with the property assessor to determine what is correct. So the property assessor lines that we have available to us are not 100% accurate. They're just drawn in. So there's a chance that the survey done is correct, but due to the amount that it is offset, we would like to have all parties verify, make sure it is correct, because if the survey is not done correctly, you could have that building, both the buildings not meet setbacks, and you also have plantings being done on the adjacent tract. So all of which we would like to make sure is done properly and on their property. Comment number 5 is regarding the construction type, and they have addressed that. Comment number 6 and 7 are both fire department comments, which they have indicated do now meet fire department requirements, so comment 6 and 7 can be removed. Comment 8 is regarding the utility lines, and that will remain. Comment number 9 was regarding the offsite sewer improvements. Our utilities department has indicated that the offsite utilities for sewer has been previously approved, and it's not located within the mill lane right of way, so comment number 9 can be removed. Comment number 10 is regarding the number of tents for each building as for address purposes, and that has been addressed. Comment number 11 is regarding some misspelling as far as locations for this development, that has been addressed. Comment 12 regarding if the property is ever divided, the proper easements will need to be provided at that time, and if there is only one owner, the sewer can stay as designed. If there's ever more than one owner, the sewer services must be separated. More of an informational comment for the developer, but it should remain. Comment number 13, we asked what is the pavement width, thickness, and condition of Mill Lane, and if it's ever been evaluated for the ability to carry truck traffic. The applicant has indicated that no study has been done, and it's just assumed that Mill Lane can handle this traffic since other industrial trucks travel this roadway as well. This is a county road, so we want to make sure that the developer gets with the county and verifies that this roadway can handle industrial traffic. So comment number 13 should be left outstanding. Comments 14, 15, 16, and 17 are all CUD comments, and once again, CUD has indicated that the site is not adequate for current fire flow requirements. So developer will need to get with CUD to determine what should be done to meet adequate fire flow requirements, and they have indicated they are currently working with CUD at this time. So with that, staff recommend approval with those remaining comments above.
Just let's clarify something for the commission, because I asked Kevin this a couple days ago. The zoning in our packet says it's C2, but in actuality, it is currently zoned I3, is that correct?
Yeah, I circled it up in the top left-hand corner.
It is
Yes.
I3, yeah.
Yes.
So there's not a zoning change, this is appropriate,
Correct. You got some C2 around there. It's a little bit of mix of what's around that area.
but current zoning is I3 and this fits I3 zoning,
Yes.
correct?
Yep.
Yeah, I was looking at that thinking, this is not design review stuff right here.
Okay. Well, we got that out of the way, so any other questions for staff on this one?
Mitchell, you mentioned you asked for a little extra brick. Is that acceptable?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, the original submittal was, both buildings were completely all metal, so we asked for
Right.
that one, at least on the frontage facing Mill Lane.
Other questions? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the staff comments.
I have a motion to approve with staff comments. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second to approve with staff comments. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This site plan is approved. We're now on to the last item under site plans. This is Empower Academy in Springs Road West. Owner, developer, CFIJ, Springs Public Schools.
This is the concept plan. We looked at last month, they are now officially bringing by with a site plan, so, the Empower Academy, just to recap this, Empower Academy has submitted a site plan for a charter school on Eden Springs Road West, north of Rock Fork Road, south of Old National Highway. The facility would consist of 4 phases with 2 levels, making up phases 1, 2, and 3, with the fourth phase being a 1-level gymnasium. Upon completion, the building would be 63,523 square feet, and the site would be located within the Eden Springs Gateway Overlay District, and will have to conform to the standards required by the Overlay District. 2 access points are shown off of Eden Springs Road West for traffic flow around the site, and a playground and soccer field are shown behind the school. Vehicle use area for the site, 2.84 acres, which does require 12,400 square feet, and they're showing for 12,500. Park required of 253 spaces, which they're showing, and that does require 7 handicap parking spaces, and they're showing for 7. The landscape plan shows street trees and shrubbery along Eden Springs Road West between the roadway and the parking lot. Within the Eden Springs Overlay District, oak is the preferred street tree species, which is shown along with maple trees. Shrubbery is shown along the foundation of the building on the sides and western elevations. The ESO does require foundation plantings at the base of any elevations which are visible from a public street. A Type C landscape buffer is shown along the eastern and southeastern property lines due to the adjacent tracts being zoned residential that do abut this commercially zoned property. There are several areas which the Type C landscape buffer should be located. However, due to overhead utility lines, no vegetation is shown in those spaces. A variety of trees and shrubs are also shown throughout the site and around parking areas and the building. Architectural elevations, which was the main topic of discussion last month that we had, does require 35% of window or void area on the facade's surface area on the lower level. As proposed, they're showing for 37%, so they are now meeting that requirement. A minimum of 20% of the upper level must be window or void area, and they're showing for 26%. There must be a base, body, and cap for the building designs. The base may be entire level for the multi-level buildings, and the body should be minimum 50% of the area of the facade, and the cap may be established with a cornice or molding, and may be the entire level if desired. As designed, they're meeting the requirements. A 2-foot base is shown, a 1-foot cap is shown, with the remaining 31-foot 10-inch to be considered the body. Similar to the design review, primary materials shall consist of at least 75% of the facade that's visible from the public street and at least 50% of the entire building. Upon completion for the entire building, the north, south, and west elevations would meet the 75% primary material requirement. The ESO does, however, allow the use of architectural metal panels with a durable finish and defined profile as a secondary material, which is proposed finishing material for this building. A minimum 82% primary material is shown on the front, north, and south side elevations with the remaining material consisting of metal. The ESO further dictates color, and the applicant shall provide the coordinated palette of all materials and colors. The primary materials have not changed from last month when we looked at this, and they still do meet our requirements as shown. Standard comments 1 through 5 would all remain. Staff comment 1 is regarding construction plans to be submitted to the utilities department. That will remain. Comment number 2 is regarding the traffic study, and any improvements shall be required to be installed by the developer, and they have not submitted that traffic study to us yet, so we do not have anything to provide to you at this time. Comment number 3 is regarding a Public Works comment regarding rock aprons, and that will remain. We'll let Public Works address that at the grading permit stage. Comment number 4 is regarding the street trees along Ian Springs Road. They have shown 19 now at this time, so they're now meeting that requirement. Comment number 5 is regarding the electric transformer. It's required to be screened per the ESO requirements. Shrubbery is shown in that area. The proposed transformer should be either moved or supplemented with additional shrubbery on the sidewalks side of the transformer, and they haven't done that. Comment 5 removed. Comment number 6 regarding above ground utility enclosures. Should be shrubbery on all 4 sides of it. They're showing shrubbery on 3 sides. We just need them to add on the back side. And then comment number 7 is regarding the FDC location. That has been addressed. So with that, staff recommend approval with those remaining comments.
Okay. I know we had quite a bit of discussion on this one last time.
Somehow they did it.
Yeah, and it looks like that now we're at design review and everything's been satisfied that we requested.
Yep, overlay requirements are all being met now this time.
Okay. Other questions for Mitchell on this one?
So for the record, they're not asking for any variances, exceptions, or anything?
Correct.
If we have nothing, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve staff comment.
Motion to approve with staff comments. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the staff comments. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Site plan is approved. All right. We are now on to the October bond review reports.
Yeah, we've got several. I'll try to go through them quickly. And so we'll get started. Hidden Hills, Section 5, Phase 1, it's one we've had for 2 years. It is 100% built out. Did talk with that developer. He did tell me he's working with their inspectors on making the repairs and should be finished within 6 to 8 months. And so I would recommend a 6-month extension there to give him that opportunity to get those things finished up. Next one is the Byers subdivision we talked about tonight regarding the fire hydrant. That has not been done yet, but they've talked with them. They said they will be doing that soon, because they're getting ready to start building. Their son is getting ready to start building, so they'll have to do that before they get a permit. So we'd recommend a 6-month extension on that one to allow for that to take place. Point Section 2, we've had for 1 year. We did not talk with that developer. Did reach out, did not hear back. Would recommend a 1-year extension on that one. That's the area of Jeannie Lane where the apartments are going to be built on the north and south side. Now their project has started construction yet, so there's still going to be quite a bit of traffic or construction traffic on that. So we'd rather wait to see that topping put down. We are going to try to reach out again to that developer and see when they're going to energize the lighting in that area, because we're starting to see some dumping there. So we want to try to at least add some lighting so where it's not as easy to do that illegal dumping. So that's outside of the bond issue, but just want to bring that up just in case their developer has to be watching tonight. So. Pine Retreat Phase 1, did reach out to that developer. That's one we've had about 5.5 years now. They are built out. Initially, I was told they were gonna be paving that soon, and then received a call back, and they're looking at doing that next spring. So, would recommend a 6-month extension to try to allow for that to happen next spring. Phase 2, Section 1 of the same development, was told it'd be 6 months up to a year from that one, before they're gonna pave there. So, that's something we've talked with that developer about, but that's what I was told. Airport Business Park Lot 4, there was just for utilities on that. There's a couple of minor things they gotta clean up, and I did talk to them, and they're gonna try to get those done before this before the letter of credit expires on the 25th of this month. So if they're able to do that, we could release it. If not, we'll have to extend it, but they seem pretty confident they can get that done, so we should be able to release that one. The Oaks, Lot 57, that's an odd, little unique situation there with regards to, an owner has land, a plat was approved many years ago in the early 90s to extend the cul-de-sac and add about 3 more lots. They're property owners and not developers, and they're having a little issues getting contractors and that sort of thing. And then I think they're looking at potentially just going back to the initial lot and combine everything back together, which would remove the need for the bond. I would recommend an extension on this one for another year. There's no issues there. They're not creating any issues for any other property owners or anything like that. I want to reach out to them probably. They wanted to discuss about combining the lots back together, so her and her husband, so I'll reach out to them. That one may go away because the plat may go away. But we'll have to see what happens there. But again, as far as this, would recommend an extension on that. Blakeney, Section 3, Phase 2, we've had this one a year. They're only about 8% built out, so we did request an extension, and we would recommend a 1-year extension on that one. Woodcrest, Section 4, and then the next one is Buckingham Place, Section 2, Phase 2. The same response from developers on that one, that the curb, sidewalks, and streetlights are finished. They're working on the binder repairs with final topping starting next week, which would have been this week. I don't know if they were able to get that started or not, but that was their goal. And they're working on, this particular developer has several phases, a couple of different developments there, and they're trying to, their goal is to have everything on the maintenance bond by the end of the year. So I do recommend an extension basically on the Woodcrest 4, Ed and Buckingham, Section 2, Phase 2. Allow them a 3-month extension that'll get them past the end of the year. And so hopefully at that time we can go to maintenance on those. I'll skip over Creekstone Village, because I'm gonna come back to that one. I'll hit Westover Phase 2A and 2B. Those are both ones we've only had for a year. Phase 2A is about 70% built out, 2B is 27%. Would recommend a 1-year extension on both of those. Come back to Creekstone Village. This is one we've had about 5.5 years. The developer has not been responsive. We tried multiple times. And myself, Tom Rose, has also tried multiple times to reach out to him, set up a meeting with him. He asked for a meeting. We said we'd be happy to meet with you on site to go over with you and the inspectors to see exactly what needs to be done. And it never happens. And so we would recommend calling this one on the Creekstone Village development, just because to the lack of any action on the part of the developer to finish the work. We're getting complaints from that neighborhood regularly about when is our street going to get paved and that sort of thing. So unfortunately, the money is not adequate. As we kind of knew that, but they'll pay for part of it, and I'll leave it to Mr. Peach. I don't know if he can maybe potentially go after the developer for the remainder of whatever. That's through the legal system. Let's see if we'll be successful there. Certainly we can make the try. But anyway, that would be the bond report tonight.
Okay. Questions for Kevin? I'll entertain a motion then.
Move to approve the bond review report.
A
Staff
motion
comments.
To approve the bond review report with staff comments. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay.
We good?
I'm good.
No. I heard a little bit of the
I
discussion.
just want to be sure we didn't need a separate motion since we're calling one, but we don't, so we're good.
That-
We're good.
my
Well, I
ear
threw in the
kinda-
staff comments.
Yes.
Yes, you did, so I think we're good.
All right. Motion and a second. Further discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion is approved. Staff comments.
I don't have anything else.
Any other business?
Nope.
Anything from the commission?
No, sir.
Charles, you good?
Sir.
Chief? We'll adjourn this meeting